Why do conversations go wrong? We can all think of conversations at work that have gone wrong. Working out why they went wrong may be hard. Hello, and welcome to another episode of In Just 1 Minute or So. Today's topic is, why do conversations go wrong? Let's jump in. We can all think of conversations at work that have gone wrong. Working out why they went wrong may be hard. Conversations are so subtle and they happen so fast. Few of us have been trained in the art of effective conversation. Conversation is a life skill, and, like most life skills, one that we are usually expected to pick up as we go along. Broadly, there are 4 main areas where conversations can fail: context, relationship, structure, behavior. There are 4 dimensions of conversation. By looking at them, we can begin to understand more clearly how conversations work, why they go wrong, and how we can begin to improve them. Putting conversations in context. All conversations have a context. They happen for a reason. Most conversations form part of a larger conversations. They are part of a process or a developing relationship. Many conversations fail because one or both of us ignore the context. If we don't check that we understand why the conversation is happening, we may very quickly start to misunderstand each other. The problem may simply be that the conversation never happens. One of the most persistent complaints against managers is that they are not there to talk to. I never see him. She has no idea what I do. He simply refuses to listen. Other obvious problems that afflict the context of the conversation include not giving enough time to the conversation, holding the conversation at the wrong time, conversing in an uncomfortable, busy or noisy place, a lack of privacy, and distractions. Less obvious, but just as important, are the assumptions that we bring to our conversations. All conversations start from assumptions. If we leave them unquestioned, misunderstandings and conflict can quickly arise. For example, we might assume that we both know what we are talking about, that we need to agree, that we know how the other person views the situation, that we shouldn't let our emotions show, the other person is somehow to blame for the problem. We can be brutally honest. We need to solve the other person's problem. Or even we are right and they are wrong. These assumptions derive from our own opinions about what is true or what we or others should do. We bring mental models to our conversations, constructions about reality that determine how we look at it. For example, I might hold a mental model that we are in business to make a profit, that women have an inherently different management style from men, or that character is different by some set of national characteristics. Millions of mental models shape and drive our thinking, all the time. We can't think without mental models. Thinking is the process of developing and changing our mental models. All too often, however, conversations become conflicts because of these mental models. This is adversarial conversation, and it is one of the most important and deadly reasons why conversations go wrong. Key factors. Objectives. Do you both know why you're holding the conversation? Time. Is this the right time to be holding this conversation? What is the history behind the conversation? Is it part of a larger process? Place. Are you conversing in a place that is comfortable, quiet, and free from distractions? Assumptions. Do you both understand the assumptions that you are starting from? Do you need to explore them before going further? Working out the relationship. Our relationship defines the limits and potentials of our conversation. We converse differently with complete strangers and with close acquaintances. Conversations are ways of establishing, fixing, or changing a relationship. Relationships are neither fixed nor permanent. They are complex and dynamic. Our relationship operates along a number of dimensions, including status, power, role, and liking. All of these factors help to define the territory of the conversation. Let's start with the status. We can define the status as the rank we grant to another person in relation to us. We normally measure it along a simple, some might say simplistic, scale. We see ourselves simply as higher or lower in a status in relationship to the other person. We confer status on others. It's evident in the degree of respect, familiarity, or reserve we grant them. We derive our own sense of status from the status we give to the other person. We do all this through conversation. Conversations may fail because the status relationship limits what we say. If we feel low in status relative to the other person, we may agree to everything they say and suppress strongly held ideas of our own. If we feel high in status relative to them, we may tend to discount what they say, put them down, interrupt, or ignore them. Indeed, these behaviors are ways of establishing or altering our status in a relationship. Our status is always at risk. It is created entirely through the other person's perceptions. It can be destroyed or diminished in a moment. Downgrading a person's status can be a powerful way of exerting your authority over them. Power. Power is the control we can exert over others. If we can influence or control people's behavior in any way, we have power over them. For instance, 5 kinds of power are: reward power, the ability to grant favors for behavior; coercive power, the ability to punish others; legitimate power, conferred by law and other sets of rules; referent power, the charisma that causes others to imitate or idolize; expert power, deriving from specific levels of knowledge or skills. Referent power is especially effective. Conversations can become paralyzed as one of us becomes overcome by the charisma of the other. Conversations are often fail because they become power struggles. People may seek to exercise different kinds of powers at different points in a conversation. If you have little reward power over the other person, for example, you may try to influence them as an expert. If you lack charisma or respect with the other person, you may try to exert authority by appealing to legitimate or to coercive power. Role. A role is a set of behaviors that people expect of us. A formal role may be explicitly defined in a job description. An informal role is conferred on us as a result of people's experience of our conversations. Conversations may fail because our roles are unclear or in conflict. We tend to converse with each other in role. If the other person knows that your formal role is an accountant, for example, they will tend to converse with you in that role. If they know that your informal role is usually the devil's advocate or mediator or licensed fool, they will adapt their conversation to that role. Seeing people in terms of roles can often lead us to label them with that role. As a result, our conversations can be limited by our mental models about those roles. Liking. Conversations can fail because we dislike each other. But they can also go wrong because we like each other a lot. The simple distinction between liking and disliking seems crude. We can find people attractive in many different ways and take against them in ways we may not be able or willing to articulate. Liking can become an emotional entanglement or even a fully fledged relationship. Dislike can turn a conversation into a vendetta or a curious, half-coded game of tit for tat. These 4 factors, status, power, role, and liking, affect the territorial relationship in the conversation. A successful conversation seeks out the shared territory, the common ground between us. But we guard our own territory carefully. As a result, many conversational rules are about how we ask and give permission for the other person to enter our territory. The success of conversation may depend on whether you give or ask clearly for such permission. People often ask for and give permission in code. You may only receive the subtlest hint or feel inhibited from giving more than a clue of the intentions. Often, it's only when the person reacts that you realize you have intruded on private territory. And that's the end of our video today. Thank you so much for joining us and looking forward to see you next week. Thank you.